Greetings and welcome to the Corporate Governance and Ethics Learning session. Today we are starting a new topic on compliance with laws and regulations. The first subtopic is overview of legal and regulatory framework on governance and ethics. This chapter has 6 subtopics. The second one is constitutional provisions on governance and ethics. Number 3 is compliance strategy. Number 4, legal and compliance audit. 5, role of professional and regulatory bodies in promoting governance and ethics. Then lastly is the international legislative and regulatory frameworks. So we are beginning by looking at the overview of legal and regulatory framework on governance and ethics. And candidates, the legal and regulatory framework on governance and ethics provides the structure for organizations to operate with integrity, transparency, and accountability. It is a structure, a framework, which is crucial for maintaining public trust, ensuring fair practices, and also protecting shareholders' interests. In this lesson, we are going to identify the key components of the legal and regulatory framework on governance and ethics. And the first key component, is laws and regulations. Laws and regulations. These form the foundation of the framework. Laws and regulations form the foundation of the legal and regulatory framework on governance and ethics. They define the legal obligations that companies must adhere to. Laws and regulations define the legal obligations that companies must adhere to, including anti-corruption laws, environmental regulations, anti-corruption laws, environmental regulations. We have regulations on and laws on integrity, labor laws, financial reporting standards, etc. Laws and regulations, anti-corruption laws, environmental laws, labor laws, financial laws, financial reporting standards, and so on. So laws and regulations form the foundation of the legal and regulatory framework on governance and ethics. 2 is corporate governance codes. Corporate governance codes. Codes of corporate governance. These codes provide guidelines for internal governance structures and practices. They cover areas such as board composition, executive compensation, risk management, shareholders' rights, and so on. Corporate governance codes is a component of the legal and regulatory framework on governance and ethics. You understand? Yes. 3, ethical. We have ethical standards and codes of conduct, ethical standards, and codes of conduct, ethical standards and codes of conduct. This outlines the ethical principles and values that organizations are expected to uphold. They address issues like conflicts of interest, fair treatment of employees, environmental responsibility, issues like community engagement, and so on. Ethical standards and codes of conduct. The fourth component of legal and regulatory framework on governance and ethics is industry-specific standards. Industry-specific standards or regulations. Now, many industries have specific regulations that govern their activities. For example, the financial sector has extensive regulations to ensure stability and to protect investors. The financial sector has regulations from the Capital Markets Authority, banks have their own industry-specific standards, and so on. So that also forms part of the legal and regulatory framework on governance and ethics. 5, international standards. That's the fifth component, international standards. Organizations operating globally often adhere to international standards such as the OECD guidelines for multinational enterprises and the United Nations Global Compact. And such standards promote responsible business conduct in areas such as human rights, labor, environment, anti-corruption, and so on. International standards. So these are the key components of the legal and regulatory framework on governance and ethics. The first one we said is laws and regulations like the anti-corruption laws, the environmental regulations, labor laws, financial reporting standards, and so on. The second component is the corporate governance codes. Number 3, we have the ethical standards and the codes of conduct. 4 is the industry-specific standards. Then we have international standards. Now, apart from the key components, we also have the regulatory bodies and enforcement. Regulatory bodies. These laws are enforced by regulatory bodies. Now, the first regulatory body of the legal and regulatory framework is government agencies. 1, government agencies. Now, government agencies play a crucial role in enforcing laws and regulations. Government agencies conduct investigations, they impose penalties for non-compliance, they may also set standards for specific industries. So the government is a big regulatory body when it comes to the compliance of the legal and regulatory framework on governance and ethics. 2, stock exchanges. Stock exchanges often have listing requirements that companies must meet, including corporate governance standards and disclosure obligations. The third one is capital market authorities. Capital market authorities also play a crucial role in regulating governance and ethics. Professional organizations professional organizations. For example, the professional organizations for accountants, lawyers, and other professional bodies have codes, and other professions have codes of ethics that members must adhere to. So these are the key regulatory bodies when it comes to governance and ethics. Now, candidates, the legal and regulatory framework in the recent past has faced some challenges. And the first challenge is in relation to globalization. The increasing globalization of business activities creates challenges for ensuring compliance with different legal and regulatory frameworks across countries or across various jurisdictions. The second challenge is emerging technologies. New technologies such as artificial intelligence and blockchain pose different legal and regulatory frameworks. They pose challenges. Emerging technologies pose challenges to the compliance of the legal and regulatory framework on governance and ethics. They pose unique ethical and governance challenges that require ongoing adaptation of the frameworks. The third challenge is in relation to growing stakeholder expectations. Stakeholders are increasingly demanding greater transparency, greater accountability, and responsible business practices from organizations. And that necessitates a continuous evolution of the framework to meet such expectations. All right? So, candidates, the legal and regulatory framework on governance and ethics is essential for fostering a fair, transparent, and accountable business environment because it helps to protect stakeholders, it helps to promote sustainable practices, and also maintain public trust. And as the business landscape continues to develop and to evolve, the framework must adapt to and also address the new challenges. It must adapt and address the new challenges and the emerging issues in order to ensure that organizations operate with integrity, transparency, responsibility, and sustainably. So that's all we can say in relation to an overview of legal and regulatory framework on governance and ethics. In this lesson, we just gave an overview. The syllabus requires us to just do an overview. We've done an overview. We've outlined the key components of the framework. There are 5 key components: laws and regulations, corporate governance codes, ethical standards and codes of conduct, industry-specific regulations, and we have international standards. We've also outlined some of the regulatory bodies, beginning with the government agencies, stock exchanges, capital market authorities, and professional organizations. Now, here is your assignment on compliance with laws and regulations. Question 1. What are the key principles that underpin the legal and regulatory framework on governance and ethics in Kenya? 2. How does the Kenya legal framework address issues of transparency and accountability in corporate governance? 3. What are the specific regulations and laws that govern ethical conduct in the Kenyan business environment? 4. What role do industry-specific regulations play in promoting good governance and ethics in different sectors? 5. How does Kenya's legal framework compare to international standards and best practices in corporate governance and ethics? That is your today's assignment. Bye.